Welcome back to the regulars. If you're new around here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, let's have a drink.
Obviously,
Bullseye.
I love my home country and where I'm from. My direct family, my very closest friends that I grew up, playing the game with. I've got a brother, mum and dad. But coming here, it feels like home. New Mexico is an incredible place, and when people ask me what do I love about this state the most, or what's the biggest difference, or what do I really love, the first thing that comes to my mind every time. I mean, there's great scenery, great local business, there's great food, but the thing that I love most about this place is the people.
Yeah,
the people are incredible. The families, the people, the investment in one another, the wanting for your neighbor to do well.
Welcome everyone to the Let's Have a Drink podcast. My name is Cam. I'm going to be your bartender today, and I'm actually here with Brucey from NM United. He's our NM United player guest, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. And today we're drinking tea.
We are indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tea. You're from England, right?
Yep.
So tea's kind of a standard there.
Yeah,
I assume, right?
absolutely.
Why do English people love tea so much?
I think so much of the culture is surrounded by social aspects.
Okay.
And I think that, tea is one area that people come together and enjoy together. And so I think that, there's obviously parts of the flavour, and there's, so many different types of tea, but I think a huge part of it is just a social thing. People do like to drink it together. If you go into somebody's house, they'll offer you tea, or if you're welcoming people in. And I think it's just kind of wrapped up in the social aspect of getting together and drinking with friends or family. So I think it's a huge part of the culture in Britain.
And so why did is tea a regional thing to England, or are there other cultures that you know of that enjoy tea at the same level? Because I like tea enough, but
Yeah.
it's not like we're going to have tea with the mates on an evening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's, I think originally, obviously, England's relationship with China, and that's where a lot of the tea is grown and produced. And so there's a huge enjoyment of teas out in Asia and China, and I think that a lot of the tea that we drink is grown from over there, and that's kind of, I believe, where it started. Okay. I don't know the actual tea like production and making in England. I'm not sure what that looks like, but we drink a lot of it, and so I think that's kind of where it was birthed from and come from. And
It's still hot.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. There's a natural tea that I really like. It's just dandelion tea.
Okay.
It's like a detox, and so
Yeah.
you just pick dandelions from a field that hasn't been sprayed with pesticide.
Oh, so you do this yourself?
Yeah, I do it
Oh,
myself,
wow.
actually. I like dandelion tea because it's a good detox.
Oh, amazing.
And so you just boil it in a pot, and then you dandelion tea.
Wow.
Good
there
to
you
go.
go.
Have it with milk
Might
or
have to
something.
give it
Or
a
just
go.
normal. Yeah.
The dandelions
I like it.
growing around here?
Dandelions do. Yeah, they're a pretty common weed. You want to get them before they go white, and you can
right.
blow them. You know what I mean? You want them when they're yellow.
You sell a business doing that.
There is dandelion root tea.
Right, okay.
Absolutely. So how long were you in England?
Born and raised in England, in between Manchester and Liverpool.
Okay.
Which is up north in England, a town called Warrington. And I lived there until I was 17 years old.
Okay. So 17 years old,
Mm-hmm.
did you come to America, and was it New Mexico, or why'd you come over? What happened with all that?
Yeah, I was coming to the education system's a little bit different in England, and I was coming to the end of formal education as we know it in England. At
High
that
school
age.
equivalent?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, high
gotcha.
school equivalent. And I was kind of deciding, I wasn't a player who was going to be able to play at the highest level in England and kind of make a career out of myself in that sense.
In soccer?
Or
football?
Yeah. And so I decided that I wanted to further my education and continue to do that. And I was going to go to university in England. But there was a coach, a British coach, an assistant coach that were coaching for a university in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I was playing for a team. I was about 17 in England, and they said, "Hey, if you want to continue your education, get a degree and continue to play at a high level with other good athletes and continue to play the game, this is the place for you. Like this is where you should be. Because in England, if you want to continue education, you can. But really, you're kind of committing to playing semi-pro football. There's no kind of
like circuit.
No, there's no circuit where both can like go at the same time, really. And so I decided that's what was going to be the most sensible option. Living in a new place, being on my own, kind of having to grow up a little bit. But then moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, met some amazing people, and it was an amazing 4 and a bit years there.
Absolutely. With the change from England to America, England's a much smaller place. Right?
Much smaller place. We're actually about the size of North Carolina.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's
you
a 50th of us.
You can fit about 7 Englands in Texas.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So here, an hour or 2 hour drive is nothing. It's my commute to work sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That would get you to the other side of the island.
I mean, that's one of the biggest differences. Yeah, coming over. I mean, we would have a long away trip in England, and it's 25-30 minutes.
And that's a long trip.
I mean, that's like a bit of an away trip. I mean, you go, 30, 45 minutes. You're going somewhere else. I mean, Liverpool and Everton are 2 of the biggest teams in England, and they're separated by a park, like one green park. And these are the 2 of the biggest teams in England. Teams and places. Everything's just closer and tighter together. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of things happening in a smaller area. Obviously, come to America, we have an away game in college, and we're driving 8 hours. I mean,
8 hour game.
It was a huge transition for me.
Absolutely. Is the public transportation in England better than the public transportation in America?
It is, but that's because of the necessity for it. We have so many people in this small area. Our country really was designed for trains.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It is. The train system has, I think, reformed year after year after year, and now it's very clean. We were just talking before now, from up north in Manchester down to Liverpool, it's a couple of hours, and it's brilliant, like straight there.
Yeah, just boom.
Exactly. And we, obviously over here, the country's so massive that having that kind of public transport just wouldn't be able to really transition that properly. I mean, this country is clearly designed for roads, and cars, the long, straight, massive highways that happen. But I mean, it would be difficult to implement that. It'd be a massive project implementing that level of
billions and trillions of dollars to do it. That's one of my goals. I want to live in a place where I don't have to drive. If I could where it's if I could just train and bus and trolley all day long and be effective with it, save commute times.
It would be. I mean, I think DC and New York
has it,
San
California,
Francisco,
parts of it,
I think the level of having a car can be an inconvenience in some of these places.
I just don't like driving that much.
Oh, really? I don't mind driving. I quite enjoy it.
That's good. You came to the right spot for driving, because New Mexico is very sprawling.
It is.
If you look at the town of Albuquerque, it's 500,000 people, but it's in the space of something that's like 4 or 5 towns in Utah or Denver or something
You're
like
right.
that.
You're right.
So it's a very, very sprawling community. What's the difference in political systems between England versus America? Because I've watched, for political science classes, I've watched Parliament. I've seen all that happen, all the shouting and standing up and everything like that. What are the key differences that you can think of?
There's a lot. I think the biggest one that comes to mind early on is two-party politics. Okay. So in America, obviously, there's 2 major parties, and that's it really.
There's others, but I'm an independent. I try to vote as I can, but there's really 2 choices.
And in England, we do have probably 2 leading parties, but there are far more other parties that are integrated into the system.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, there's a wide variance of parties, and it's not quite this 2-headed horse. There's more going on as far as party politics. I think there are also smaller things. Caps in spending on campaigns in England. There's certain degrees of caps on campaigns, so there's much more walking on foot delivering leaflets, because that costs less money than to put out big adverts on television, which we don't have as much of. But obviously Parliament itself, is absolutely steeped in history, and what's the history of Parliament and British government is incredible. I mean, you've got people on back benches who don't actually have a ministerial role or presidential role that are able to make huge impacts in communities all over the country and worldwide. I mean, William Wilberforce was a leading figure in breaking down slavery, and he was just a backbencher. You know, he was just a local MP, which is an amazing thing. He was never somebody who was a president or a prime minister or a minister of any kind, but did incredible things. But Churchill said that Britain's democracy is the worst form of democracy apart from all the rest. Basically saying it's very difficult to get a really perfect level of absolute representation, but England do a reasonably good job of trying to separate, you know, counties and communities to have them represented by somebody down south in Parliament.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the recent Boris Johnson issue? Boris Johnson is Prime Minister, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Soon to be ex-Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Because Prime Ministers aren't elected, if I gather that correctly. They're chosen by the party that the people elect to power, basically.
Yes.
So in a way, you kind of elect them, but not. It's like surrogate election, right?
Yeah. You're spot on.
Yeah.
It's the leader of the party that gets the most votes, first past the post votes, will become the Prime Minister. Okay. Yeah. So it depends how you want to look at it. You know, everyone knows the leader of the party, so they could say, oh, well, we like this individual, we don't like this individual. Or you could say, we like the manifesto or the beliefs of a certain, party, and we'd like to elect that party. But yeah, it's been a wild week in British politics. I mean, honestly, I think the past kind of 5 to 10 years with Brexit and referendums and different prime ministers coming in and out and elections, there's it's been a fair few years of kind of turnover and turmoil and
even despite that, you guys have healthcare figured out. That's what's impressive, honestly. That's what's impressive.
We have to give a huge plaudits to all those individuals working in the National Health Service. It's an amazing thing that I think has been brought in and implemented in the country. And I think the incredible thing is every year or every, so many years, there's still reform happening to make things better and cleaner and sharper.
Yeah.
And the country does a wonderful job at that, and the people working there are fantastic. So that's been good.
Absolutely. The way I kind of view Britain is it's like what America will be a couple hundred years, because Britain, it has a couple hundred years ahead of us. They've been around that much longer than America. And I feel like where we're at now, in far as rights being pushed, healthcare being pushed out there, different still more capitalistic but socialistic ideas coming into play.
Yeah,
it's like you guys are a little bit farther ahead. Maybe that's because you guys have been around enough.
We've been around a long time.
Yeah.
But I will say sometimes not all change is good.
No, it's fair.
We've seen many things that we've done in history, and then we've taken back. We said, no, wait, we were actually doing all right at this certain things. And I do think coming over to America, I think it's a wonderful thing that people are proud of this place.
That's cool.
I think that's a really incredible thing, and people, they love the people of this place. They have great ties to their state. They love that. People who are from New Mexico love New Mexico.
New Mexico. You don't shit on New Mexico.
It's brilliant. I love that. I come here and there's a real pride in this place, and people like to be represented by their state, and feel represented by their state, and that's a wonderful thing. And I don't think the country should lose that. And I think the emphasis on the family, I think people being good to one another. I felt that coming to New Mexico. The kids that we have at the games and the parents, and just interacting with them, it brings such joy, and a really amazing thing that is unique to places like this. Passionate people that love where they're from, and they want their families to make a difference in the place. And I think it's an incredible thing, and I think the level of opportunity in this country is brilliant as well.
It's insane.
I mean, what you guys are doing here, it's you felt like there's an opportunity for you to do something, and you've gone and done it, and and that's not always the same with countries worldwide. That's an incredible thing that people have to take ownership for, and take those opportunities and love as well. The level of opportunity here is absolutely outstanding.
Absolutely.
And I love that. And that's the same, with the club, New Mexico United. There was people here who had a vested interest in the community and soccer, and there was an opportunity for us to make a club, and obviously the owner, Pete Trevisani, being the head of that, and guys like David Carl and coaches coming in. have really taken that opportunity and made it their own. And in some other countries, there's so many barriers to entry. There's so many restrictions, and there's just generally less opportunity for people to take those things and take those strides forward. And I think that's an incredible thing that this country is unique about. Yeah,
La Familia. That's what it is, and especially in Albuquerque, right?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
I feel like NM United is the embodiment of La Familia. Now, I'm a big fan. I love NM United.
Good.
I go to as many games as I can.
Me too.
I hope so. I hope you're a big fan. So how did you go from playing college in South Carolina, right?
North Carolina, yeah.
How did you go from playing college in North Carolina to going on a team like NM United? Because NM United is a pro team, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So how did you go from college to pro? How did that look?
It's a cool story, really, and one that I would love to say was one of my own skill and battling, but I have to give a lot of credit to really one individual who I'll come on to. But to give you a kind of a reference, growing up and even in college, I was never a player who was the guy. You know, I was never a player who was the best player on the field, the guy you come to watch, you know, the guy whose name's buzzing around. Like I was never that kind of player.
Yeah.
I was a player who had a role, responsibility, did it, was relatively reliable, and you know, I enjoyed having a good, solid role in a team. And obviously, in summer, when playing in college, I went home on average about every other year. And so the years that I was in North Carolina, I obviously wanted to continue to, you know, stay sharp, stay fit. And so I trained with the then USL Championship side, the Charlotte Independents, which, you know, is itself a great club and was part of the USL Championship. It's not anymore. I think they're in League One now. But, you know, it was just a good opportunity for a young college kid to be with a squad and train, getting ready for the college season to come.
Yeah.
And as I was training, you know, I'd be the kind of the player who they bring in and say, "Oh, Brucey, can we, you know, we'll bring him in for the game at the end. Can we play him at right midfield or centre midfield, or let's throw him on up top, or just filling in holes here or there, and just generally, you know, if I'm on a team putting out fires, or just plugging a hole somewhere, or just being a guy to have around the squad, you know, for me to help me to stay sharp, really, to help them if they needed an extra number." And there was an assistant coach there who I got very close with over these kind of few weeks that I would be there, called Troy Lezane. Yeah. And he was the assistant there, knew the game phenomenally well, was kind of an assistant in name only, really. He was, as far as ideas in football, just a brilliant mind and a really, really good guy. And we built up a reasonable relationship, you know, there. He kind of liked the fact that I would just come in and do a job here or there and not really complain, just kind of get on with it and enjoy it. And enjoy that role, you know, and not kind of have any level of arrogance or ego about it, and just kind of do whatever, you know, they would like me to do. And so it got to about the end of my last season, my senior year in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was approached with a call in about early January-ish from Troy Lezane, and he said, "Hey, I'm now not the assistant at Charlotte Independents. I'm the head coach at New Mexico United, a brand new team that was taking part in the 2019 USL Championship season. Brucey, would you come on over and give us a year and be a part of the squad?" And you know, he felt that I was a trustable guy to bring around and be a part of a team, and you know, a young guy who was going to be hungry and work hard and just be somebody that he would want around the squad and the team, you know, and pretty versatile as far as positions, and so, you know, a little bit of thought, and I said, you know, I knew Troy. He was the only person that I knew in coming out here, and he was a great guy. I've got so much admiration and so much to thank him for my journey in the game of football. But, you know, I signed that first contract for New Mexico United, and I said, you know, I'll give it a year and we'll see where it goes.
You're still here.
And I'm still knocking about 4 years on. So been here from, you know, the first game of the season, and I feel very fortunate that the club have wanted to keep me around. I love the state, I love the team, and it's been a great journey. And
you seem to be a staple within the team, because I think of you, I think of Olivas. Who's the guy that just got back from an injury?
Suggsy, Josh Suggsy.
Yeah.
He's a captain.
Those are the ones that I kind of like flash in my hand of, go buy Brucey or Weehan or whoever.
Well, we're very fortunate. We've had some brilliant players in the squad, and guys that have performed brilliantly for us over the first formative years, because these years are important for a club, to lay a system and to lay a foundation of mentality and culture and what we expect and what we should have. And if the club goes on to win anything in the future, hopefully we do sooner rather than later, they will be a huge part of that. Whether Troy's now,
because he's a coach of a different team now. Right?
He's now the assistant in the MLS side, and even if we go on to win something, he will be a huge part of what we've won, because laying the foundation, it's a huge part of it, and we've been really blessed. And I think that is a huge testament and credit to the coaches we've had here on how they recruit. They want to recruit good players, obviously, but they want to recruit good people. Yeah. And the players that have been brought in, more often than not, have been wonderful men, good people.
Role models for the
community. Exactly.
That's something that Albuquerque really needs. Yeah. Because if you look at poverty statistics, you look at crime statistics, we don't have something that we can claim to be ours, something that we can rally behind. At least we didn't.
Yeah.
Because, UNM is okay.
Yeah.
Isotopes are kind of boring, and they're a farm team, right? I used to play baseball for 9 years. I don't like watching the Isotopes.
I don't know much about baseball, so I can't.
It's fun to play. I just can't watch it very well. We don't really. What NM United gives New Mexico, and this is my opinion.
Yeah.
What NM United gives New Mexico is something to root for, something to rally behind, and something to create that La Familia within a team.
Amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at the fan section of the game, the chants that occur.
Yeah.
I went to, in 2019, is the first game I ever went on you guys' premiere season.
Amazing.
And I went to a sold-out game. I have never seen Isotopes sell more than 2,000 tickets, and you guys had 14,500 people in there, and it was the loudest, funnest, craziest thing I've ever been to. And I got the tickets from work on a whim.
Oh, brilliant.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the beauty of NM United. I'm a big fan. We just got your flag right here. There's a flag back here. Yeah. So let's talk about team dynamics a little bit. The NM United as a whole has been pretty outward about different social issues currently happening. Pride was a big deal with NM United. They took an official stance on abortion and the women's right to choose. You guys banned players who were saying slurs. Right? These are important things here. So why does that occur with NM United? And is that pretty common around the soccer industry, or is United something special when it comes to that?
The club's a special club. No matter what is said and done, this club is a fantastic club, and people are. What makes a club so special is the people within it, and that includes the coaches, the people working in the backroom staff, the fans, the guys on the field, just brilliant people within a club. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can't overlook as a team is, you alluded to it before, having good role models in the community, and I think a huge thing for us to understand is, a big way that we do give hope and give passion and enjoyment and satisfaction and a future to young people of Albuquerque is by winning games. Yeah. You have to have a sense of pride about being good at your job, and it's difficult for young lads in the community to buy into a failing team. Yeah. And the ethos of our club is hard work, humility, diligence, and action. And I think it's important that any person who comes and represents the club, as far as either a fan or somebody who's involved in the club, working for the club, make sure that they hold themselves to that standard. In whatever they do, they're humble, they work hard, and they have a level of diligence that will give hope to people in the community, especially young girls, young guys in the community, that helps us, be good and win games. Obviously we it's not all about, just purely 3 points. We don't care about anything else, but it is an important thing, for people to be like, wow, these guys really, it matters to them, their trade, their work and how hard they work, and the fact that then shows on a Saturday or a Wednesday that's an important thing for young people to see, that no matter what job they do, no matter where it is in this state, your work matters.
Yeah.
What you do matters, and being good at what you do and trying what you do and working hard at what you do is vastly important for young people, middle people, old people, to know that you matter, and your job and how you serve people in that is really important. And I think that's something we try and display in the club. We want to continue to get better and better to ultimately win something for this state. I think that will be one of the greatest things.
Shit, man. I would be happy.
I think that will be one of the greatest things for us as a club if we could win some silverware back for this state, to really something to put our hands on and be proud of forever.
We can slap it up there in the stadium and
I think that would be something that would be really, really special. And that represents, hard work that New Mexicans put into every single job that they do, every single day. And just another thing to be proud of if you're New Mexican.
Absolutely. So with the stances that NM United has taken on different social issues, have you seen any backlash on that as a player? Or have you heard of anybody within the organization receiving significant backlash from fans who sometimes lean conservative, who are anti-abortion or who are anti-gay?
No, not particularly.
Okay.
I think it's the club's always, made it very clear that it wants to represent all voices. It wants to represent people of this state, and there are people in many different demographics that live in New Mexico, and the club makes sure that there is, if anybody wants to come and buy a ticket to this game and support this team, that they can, and that's a very wonderful thing. That's something that I'm proud of with the team.
My favorite thing is the Pride merch you guys do every June. I still have the Pride jersey from last year.
The merchandise people who I mean, Josh Lane is the creative director of the club. He is unbelievable. I mean, this guy, the mind for some of the things that he's done is absolutely amazing, and the whole merchandise committee, and guys like David Carl as well, who come in and put their personality into things and really make the club is a huge part of it. Some of the stuff from the local artists, around. I mean, that's what a great initiative that is, to have local artists in the club making different, shirts or materials or posters and things for the club to be proud of. That's a really cool thing, yeah.
So is the environment in English soccer versus the environment in American soccer, is there any differences there as far as like the way fans are, general vibes? Like, is there any difference between soccer in England as far as like the fans or the games versus soccer in America?
There are differences. I think there is. The game's been around for a much longer time in England. So if we're comparing the Premier League and comparing it to a lower division in America, then it's apples and oranges at times.
Okay.
But I think because of how good these teams in the Premier League are now, and the quality of football on display, how fast the pace of the game is, the margins are so much tighter. There is, I won't say less patience, but the demand to win things is very high. I mean, if you play for one of these big teams, you have to win games. I mean, last couple of seasons, if you're a Liverpool or Man City fan, you can't afford to lose games. Any games.
Can't afford it.
You just can't afford to do it. And so the demand on players is very, very high. I mean, there's just no margin for error. And that's something that I think even in the past, 3 to 5 years, we've seen an excelled rate. And it's good to see, because the game is still improving, the game's still getting faster, the game's still getting quicker. And that's, a really exciting thing in the game of football. It's still evolving, so that's really good.
Absolutely. Cool. My next question for you,
Yeah.
again about soccer. When it comes to different positions, which one do you play? Like, because you made it sound like in college that you were just I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go where they need me.
Yeah.
Which one do you play for Inter United? What do you prefer? And if you could describe that to me, because I don't know the positions.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one with me. I don't actually have a position.
Okay.
And not that it's becoming more common in the modern game, but again, I have a lot of to thank Troy and Zach Prince for this, because in college I moved around a little bit, but mainly I was a striker. I was a number 9.
Yeah.
So I played high up the field, trying to get in the box, score goals, be a problem for defenders. And came to New Mexico United and played more in the first year as in midfield, right or left midfield, and then every now and then a little bit higher up in the 10 maybe. And then second year became more of a wing back, which is a position that's developed in itself the past few years, but kind of more up and down the side, very wide, defending in a low block, trying to get in behind in a high block, up and down. And then have transitioned from that, if we're in a back 4, to play right back sometimes, which is much more of a defensive role, covering and shifting in a back 4, keeping the game in front of you.
Yeah.
And then while still being, playing as a midfielder and a striker at times as well. So, I mean, in the last 3 games, I played as a number 8 in the middle, moved to the 10, playing up front, played right wing back and right back in the last 3 games. So really all over the field. And it was something that used to not frustrate me, but I used to, as a player, you want to be able to feel like you're in a position to really go and get better at a position and express yourself in a position and make it yours, And I would ask Troy and Zach about this, and they would say, we want you to lean deeper into the complete other side. We see you as more of a modern player in that you are versatile, and you should see that as a quality. And they were right, 100% right. And I have huge thanks to them for kind of encouraging me in that and challenging me in that, because it's difficult, if you're in any line of work, to be doing, a certain job and feeling like you're good at it, and then you're being shifted to another job, somewhere else in the work, in whatever line of business or operation you're in. And then you I don't know, it can feel like you're not really excelling in one thing, but in actual fact, the reason why sometimes you're being moved around is because there's a lot of trust in you to do a job. You have a certain degree of responsibility, you have a good understanding of the game, and I'm thankful of moving around now, because it has broadened kind of my understanding of what it is to play in defence, of to play higher up, kind of the demands and the different roles and responsibilities that are tied into that. And I've enjoyed this season playing a lot of different positions, and I think I would encourage young players to have positions that you enjoy, have positions that you feel tailor to your skill set, but don't be afraid to play other positions. That's a brilliant asset to have in the modern game. Formations are changing, tactics are changing, and I think it's important that young players are encouraged to play in different positions and see the game from other areas.
Absolutely. With soccer then, how old are you?
I'm 26.
26. When is like the cap for a soccer player? Like, when does a soccer player leave their prime? Because in like many sports, if you get to like your 30s, I mean, I think Tom Brady's only like 40 something, right? And he's already like the old man of the league for football.
He is. We can both, I'm sure, admit he is quite unique, though.
Yes,
in his
very
skills.
unique, and most people don't make it that long.
Yeah.
Right? So, at what point does a soccer player normally cap out? How many good years do they have within a pro circuit? What does that look like?
This is not the answer you'll be wanting, but it varies. It can vary, and a lot of that does tend to be position based.
Okay.
Some of it is down to how injury prone you are as a player. We've seen, some brilliant players' careers maybe come to an end earlier than others just because of how injury prone they were. I mean, there was a great player, Jack Wilshere, great Arsenal player who just retired this week, and he was, a fantastic player, but just a little bit more injury prone than some players. So never quite maybe achieved some of the things that he could have, but still a fantastic player. But it does vary. I mean, we've got guys on the team that are, 32, 33, brilliant athletes, look after their bodies immensely well, fantastic players, and have managed to stay injury free. And then there's guys who are, like I said, there's guys who are younger who the body begins to just give you signals that you maybe those first 5 yards aren't quite as sharp as they used to be, and that can happen at a younger age, that can happen at an older age. It depends, but I think generally you're looking at around, they say a prime for soccer to be around the 29-year-old mark. But we've got players like Cristiano Ronaldo in the Premier League who's 35, 36?
On the older side of things.
And 36 years old, and he's just scored 20-odd goals in the Premier League this season, the best league in the world. So it really depends. It can vary. And in the USL, we've got some fantastic players who are up and around that age and brilliant players. So, it's... there's also players that... We've had a player for the last... 4 years at the club, Juan Pablo Guzman.
Guzman. He
was a number 6, and my goodness, this guy, he could. I mean, he's not been playing now for a year, but I think he could be 60, 70, and he could walk straight back onto a field and control the game. Unbelievable player. I mean, just his mind and his ability to know, where the ball's going and be there and do his work kind of off the ball. Just a brilliant player like that. And so you've got players that are able, it just seems that they're absolutely endless. They can just go on forever. So
absolutely. How does the circuits work then within America? Because you talk about the Premier League, it's the best league in the world. That's more of a Euro league, correct?
Yeah. England's league. Yeah.
How do the circuits work in America? Because you said we were part of the Inter United's part of which league?
The USL Championship.
USL Championship. But there's also other leagues as well.
There are. We've got the MLS, which is generally considered the top division in America. And then we have the USL Championship, we have USL League One, and then we have USL League Two, which is more of a developmental at times, under 23s,
like a AAA.
Similar. That's the baseball terminology.
It's like the Isotopes are a AAA.
David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's about right.
So the USL League 2 is semi-pro.
Semi-pro. Okay.
And so that's kind of the general spine of what the structure is in America. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how does it work then that there's a worldwide league then where America plays Italy plays? How does that work?
So that's the World Cup.
Okay.
And that happens once every 4 years.
Okay.
And so there's World Cup qualifications that go on for weeks at a time in between those 4 years.
Okay.
And that is widely considered the greatest prize in football. If your country is able to win the World Cup, it's the most revered, the most
it's the cherry magical. On top of everything.
I think so. It is something special about that competition. And it's happening this winter.
Nice.
In the Middle East, in Qatar. And usually it's held in the summer. Yeah. But in Qatar, obviously the temperature is just going to be way too high in the summer. So they're going to have to make a break in seasons around the world for the World Cup to happen in the summer, which is an exciting time. The US have been drawn in the same group as my England. So it's going to be it's going to be an interesting time. Yeah, I think it's Black Friday. I think we play each other this year, so that'll be a tense time. I don't know where I'm going to watch it, but I have to be selective about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you are when we choose a team for the American team, are they picked from a variety of teams like an all-star team, or are they already formed and ready to go?
No, that's what it is effectively. So as a professional player, you play for your club.
Yeah.
And then if you are one of the best players of your country, then in the tournament time you will be selected from whoever's the coach of your country's team to then go and represent your country. So, for example, David Beckham a big player for Manchester United. He was a player for Manchester United and Real Madrid, and played there. And whenever our country had a tournament or a friendly, he would, leave his club team temporarily, go and play for the country, and then come back and continue with his club side.
Okay. Do people because your league is the second best league,
effectively,
yeah. Secondly, like the second one. Do people from that league ever get drafted into the World Cup?
Yeah, we have a lot of players in the USL Championship that are representing their country, and in fact, we've had players from New Mexico United.
Really?
Yeah, Alexis Sawahi, playing for Comoros, Radia Vuka. Over the past, Dave, who else have we had? Yeah, he's with the Congo. Yeah. Moreno with El Salvador. We've got Carl Saint. He's with Haiti. It does happen.
So if you ever get drafted, then you're playing for England.
Yes, in my wildest dreams.
Okay. So it's based upon like where you're from, not where you're playing currently.
Yeah, it's on your birth country. There's certain I don't want to say loopholes, but inaccuracies with if your mother's born in a certain country, I think that you can represent them or something elsewhere, but generally it's your birthplace, your nationality.
Absolutely,
that's what you represents you. Yeah.
Is there a specific type of place where you go to watch this? Because I'm not a soccer guy. I like NM United.
Yeah.
And that's my realm of soccer, right? So what type of bar is it, like a sports bar? Are there soccer specific bars? Like what type of place do you go and watch this type of thing at?
Same thing for pretty much any other sports. Mm-hmm. I would say if you enjoy the atmosphere at New Mexico United games and you enjoy the feeling of being with people, supporting a common goal and a team, do not miss the World Cup.
Okay, do not miss the World Cup.
Do not miss the World Cup. Go and find out whether it's on social media, where there's going to be big watch parties for the US national team, and be there, because it's history. It's an incredible thing to see your country be represented on the world stage in the biggest sport in the world, on the biggest stage in the world, is an incredible thing. And I think there'll be watch parties all over Albuquerque, New Mexico, and whether it's whether it's at any different venue, just make sure you're there.
Figure out how to watch
an incredible thing. Yeah.
How does it work then with the U.S.? Is U.S. any good in the World Cup? Because I hear U.S. get pooped on a lot from soccer standpoint.
It's difficult for me to say. I'm from, historically, they say, one of the best football playing countries in the world, and we've only won the World Cup once in 1966. And I think the US is actually, the quality of player now for the US national team is going to be very, very good.
Okay.
And the last World Cup I believe the US just missed out on, and this World Cup they have qualified for.
Okay.
And England, I don't believe, have ever beaten the US national team in a tournament style game.
Ooh.
And they're a difficult side to draw in a tournament, the US national team, because like some of the things we've talked about, there's great pride in the country, and these players fight for their country hard, and it's an amazing thing. And so it will be an exciting time for the US in this World Cup. It is an exciting time to be a US national supporter of your country. So I'm just hoping that it's not too good for you guys on Black.
Because you want to make sure England might get through. Yeah. That's exciting, because growing up, I always was like, oh, soccer's not really an American thing. Mm-hmm. Does our American team even do any good? I know we kick butt at baseball every year at the Olympics, but soccer,
Yeah, but this is also an interesting thing with like fandom and supporting teams. When you talk about differences with the US and Europe, as far as like team supporting, there's a certain thing about supporting an underdog in where I'm from that's really quite special. Yeah, it's really quite. People encourage that. People like that a lot, and people respect it. And when I came to North Carolina originally at the start, there was I would say I'm a Wolves fan, which Wolverhampton Wanderers play in the Premier League, and they're not one of the best sides in the Premier League, and they're kind of lower mid-table. And I would get asked, so who's your Premier League team? Who do you support? You're from Manchester, Liverpool area. Who do you support? And I would say, I'm a Wolves fan, Wolverhampton Wanderers. And there's kind of a general reaction of what? Like, why do you support them?
Big guys that you live with?
Like why on earth, if you're from there, would you support these guys? Like, what are you doing? Like, just pretend that you support someone else, like pretend that you're. But no, I love Wolves, and that's who my dad supported and who his dad supported, and that's kind of part of my life, and I love that team. So. There's kind of that level of underdog, supporting the underdog mentality and enjoying that and embracing that I think the US can get behind their team this World Cup, and it could be a very, very exciting time.
That'd be cool. It's another Mighty Ducks story.
Oh, it would be amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. How does NM United do within the conference that they're in? Then I just watched the game.
Yeah.
I just enjoy being there. I don't know anything about where we're at in the standings.
Yeah.
So how is New Mexico United doing this year? Where are we at in the league? How is that working?
So it's been a funny league this season because what you see right now doesn't necessarily give a true representation because there's such a gulf in games played. Yeah. We've had a few games cancelled for different reasons.
Like the rain that one time.
The rain.
Which I appreciate, by the way, because... you guys made the post on it about how this rain's awesome. We're glad it's here. We need to postpone the game. You weren't salty about it, which is great because we needed the rain.
Yeah,
so that was really awesome.
The rain was brilliant here, and with those kind of stuff, the club handles amazingly well. And just being clear with communication on the front is fantastic, and the fans feel cared for with that. And then how they respond with that with the next few games, and having people there, it's brilliant. But yeah, we've had different games. Postpone or push back, and that's been the same with other games that have happened, not including us in the league. And so right now we're bouncing around 6th, 5th in the standings, with playing 4 games less than some of the teams around us. And so I would say this season we've made strides and made steps forward. We had a great run of form the last couple of games. We've won and tied. And so, we out of the past few years, has only been once we've not made the playoffs, and we've won a few games in the playoffs now, and it's an exciting time to be a player and supporter of the club because every year we're making improvements. We're getting better, and we're adding better players. We have better systems and advanced systems and ways that we train and ways that we play, and that's a huge credit to Zach, especially now, our head coach now. His one of his biggest encouragements to us as players is to be very process driven, and continue every single day to stay in the moment to improve as a player. Because if you're not improving, you're not standing still, you're getting worse because people around you are always improving, and so just thinking of new ways to become a better player, a better person to have around the locker room, and that's something that's integral to our club. Every season we want to make sure that we're in a better place on and off the field than we were the season before.
Absolutely. That is last call, so this is last tea. Normally if I have people drinking, they get one more drink, but this is last tea, right?
We'll stick with this one. I'm good with this.
Absolutely. So we'll be wrapping up here in a little bit. I did want to ask you though, moving from England to New Mexico, I wanted to ask you a couple things. One, the difference in climate, difference in food, and what you miss and what you like here, and what you don't like here and what you don't miss there, vice versa, right? And there's another one. I'll think about it while you're telling me those two.
Great question. Obviously, I love my home country and where I'm from. My direct family, my very closest friends that I grew up, playing the game with and being around. Tighter circle knit of friends and family that I love. I've got a brother, mum and dad. But coming here, it feels like home. New Mexico is an incredible place, and when people ask me what do I love about this state the most, or what's the biggest difference, or what do I really love, the first thing that comes to my mind every time. I mean, there's great there's great scenery, great local business, there's great food. But the thing that I love most about this place is the people.
Yeah.
The people are incredible. The families, the people, the investment in one another. You know, the wanting for your neighbour to do well. And I see that with the club, and I see that with youth sports. I see that with families encouraging one another. Just good, solid people that I feel so fortunate to have spent even small amounts or large amounts of time and getting to know people of this place, and the you know, the fans of the club, and people who don't know much about soccer, even, you know, who are just working in working in local business and doing those things, and I think that's an incredible thing that I've learned to really enjoy from this place. But obviously, also, you look out these windows, there's the most unbelievable Sandia Mountain. I mean, that is
the best sunsets. I can never find a sunset anywhere else like here.
I mean, that is something so special that every New Mexican should wake up and look at those mountains and say, I'm blessed to be here.
Absolutely.
Because that is an incredible thing.
As far as food goes, what do you miss about the English food? What do you like about the New Mexican food? What do you don't like about the New Mexican food?
I am on the chili board.
Heck yeah, cool, red or green.
I'm on. I think just moving towards green. I don't think my palate's quite maybe not developed quite as much to be able to get to the red, or even just as much. But I do like the green. I love going to local businesses and trying their foods, different spots. I'm a big coffee guy.
Oh, cool.
So I love the New Mexican coffee, local coffee shops, you know, single origin stuff that look after their farm as well.
Like Zendo,
brilliant, Slow Burn, VM, Michael Thomas, Little Bear. Just so many good spots and great people that work there. It's one of my favorite things to do is be in the community and just see people and chat with people in local coffee shops. Fantastic place to be. So that's something, as far as like food or cuisine in New Mexico,
you're on it.
I love that. I'm all about that. It's brilliant. Yeah.
And then, what is your favorite food in England? So I assume the palate's completely different.
It is. Generally, we have a slightly blander palate, for want of a better phrase, in England. Just with the history of what we have and the agriculture, there's lots of potatoes and meat and things like that. And so, I mean, what do I miss? I mean, good British beef is fantastic. We have some great beef over here as well. There is teas, PG tips. I mean, having that at home a lot. I don't know. It's a great question, really. It pushed me. There's a dessert called sticky toffee pudding.
Okay.
That is you know, I don't know if I've ever had over here, but that's a brilliant dessert. It's like a sponge with like a toffee sort of glazing over the top. It's typically obviously a dessert, but that's something good in England that if you ever plan on going, definitely go and make sure you get one of those.
That sounds like some like a British baking cook-off kind of thing.
Oh, it would, like which is a brilliant show, by the way. What a great show that is. I haven't watched it, you know, for the longest years, like growing up, but just the past couple of years I started to watch it. That's a fantastic show. Like, it's really good. I like the Great British Bake Off. Yeah. So good.
Are there any phrases in England that are unique that you don't have here? Like when you say it off your like tip of your tongue, people are like, "What do you mean by that?"
I mean, honestly, when it's tough for me to really like know 100%. It's when we're talking and then somebody else was to go, "What did you just say?" And then I'm like, "Oh, you didn't know what that is," you know. I mean, something that you know, the couple of phrases coming over that we don't have in England. I remember hearing a lot of people say, "Oh, that's clutch." Like, this is clutch or that's clutch.
Move.
I for the longest time I had hardest time understanding what that actually meant. I just had no idea what
coming
in
clutch.
Coming in clutch. Like what is that? And so there's small things like that from me. I'm trying to think from England things that we have that we say. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm sure when I'm driving home I'll be able to think of, but right now on the spot it's a little bit more difficult. I mean, we had one before when I was saying bog standard.
Yeah, bog standard. What is bog standard?
Bog standard is just average or maybe just below average.
Okay,
so just the most, if we're talking about the most bog standard thing, then it's just very average.
For us New Mexicans who don't have water, what is a bog?
It is a toilet.
Okay.
I don't know whether that's in somewhere in the phrase. Okay. I don't know whether that's just not in the phrase at all. But yeah, the bog standard. That's
okay. It's like
the phrase.
Yeah, it's like piss beer or bad or decent, just subpar.
Just average tea. Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my favorite one you've said is bog standard. I just think that I'm gonna start using that now.
Yeah, bang average. Yeah,
bang average. We use subpar. That's like subpar. It's mid. Yeah, it's very
middle range.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. I appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here and spend some time with more New Mexicans, which is one of my favorite things to do. So thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you. We're going to close up, but
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Take care, guys.
Have a good one.